Hello and welcome back to Pass the Torch Legacies in Jewelry. My name is Naja Dessa Van Diest. It's just you and me today. Funny story. So anytime I record any of these podcasts, my camera and my equipment is set up on my polishing machine because I record these episodes always in my shop. And I always make sure that my polishing machine is unplugged, obviously, before I put, cameras and computers and lights and all of that, onto the polishing machine. And people think that I have some like fancy rig or setup. I don't. It's a very juvenile base that I can pack up quickly and store and then pull out, if I need it. And so I keep my equipment on my polishing machine. And I'm working right now in my shop and I need to use my polishing machine. And I was challenged by a couple of my mentors to occasionally pause and record these solo episodes to document where I'm at and what I'm doing on a periodic basis. And so I thought, well, once I put this podcast equipment away, it's going away until I have to do my next interview, which isn't for a while, a couple days, I think. And so while it's here and while it's in front of me, I'm going to force myself to sit down and put something together until I have to pack it away because ultimately I need to use my polishing machine. And so I'm sitting down here today. When I do these solo episodes, I don't do any edits. They're one takes all the way through. And I just kind of share what I've been toying with and contemplating in my mind at that particular point in time. So I've had quite a really hectic last 10 days, and they're not normal days that I've had. And upon reflection, I realized how unique this season of my life is. You know, I work a couple days a week at a repair shop, and I love, love, love that job because it was very evident to me early on, even just while I was working sales, that if you can fix it, you can make it. But it doesn't necessarily go the other direction. Just because you can make it doesn't mean you can fix it. And so this repair job that I have is a massive priority in my life because I want to be really, really good in simple terms. And I don't ever want there to be something that crosses my bench that I can't tackle or I feel, so intimidated by that I don't even know how to approach it. And so, what this repair job offers me is an opportunity to really diversify the things that I'm working on. That is a huge gift, and I don't take that lightly. So I worked quite a few days at my repair job, and I clock in early, and I try to stay late whenever I can to get work done and learn. And they just have an amazing shop, more well-rounded than my own. So I get to expose myself to a lot more advanced tools and equipment in that capacity. And then I also started taking on some B2B work. So B2B is business to business, and I am fabricating and doing some repairs for local jewelers in Colorado who have more work than they can get done themselves. So I've been doing a little bit of that as well. I'm running this podcast, which I think takes way more effort than a lot of people realize. It's a massive part of my week to record and edit and then do the whole social media thing. It's quite a bit of a commitment, but at the same time, I'm having so much fun doing it. It's the best part of my week every week, and getting to connect with people and talk to people. I view it as such an honor, and I'm not tired of it. People are like, you're putting them out every week or almost every week. You should slow down. And honestly, I'll slow down when the ideas stop coming to me or like the people stop coming to me. Right now, I just glean every opportunity as a gift and a blessing. And so I'm just going to keep creating as long as I have the stamina to do it. And right now I've had it in a manageable setup where I feel like, okay, I can continue to do this in a long-term format. So I did all that, and I think I worked 2 days back to back that really I had an 11-hour day at my bench and then a 15-hour day at my bench. I think this was a Thursday last week. And 15-hour day at the bench. I delivered my B2B work. I worked at my repair shop. I was working on a custom engagement ring that I'm doing. And then later that night, I think I got off work at like 7 p.m. I went to the airport to catch a midnight flight to New York City to go to the Hamptons Jewelry Show. So I got on my flight at midnight and I landed at 6 a.m. in New York, and I took the train over to Jamaica and then took the Long Island Railroad out to East Hampton, where I met up with my friends for the Hamptons Jewelry Show. And this was the first time that this show was happening. So, we didn't really know what to expect or anything like that. But I was just, I was out there to help sell some of the pieces that weekend. And so by 10 a.m., I was in the booth working the booth. And so from midnight to 6 a.m., anyways, I realized that that's insane. And I worked the booth for 3 days and then came back or caught a midnight flight back to Colorado and was in class for a seminar, a training seminar the next morning at 9 a.m. So my flight didn't land back until 3 a.m. And by 9 a.m. I was in a 2-day seminar with Matthew Tuggle. So, which by the way, I took like 17 pages of notes during that seminar, all jewelry related, GRS engravers and stuff like that. And, took those notes and then went right back to my repair shop. So people have been asking me what my life looks like, and it's really hard to give kind of a definitive, this is what a single week looks like, because every week changes for me. And I have really diversified my education opportunities, which I think is pretty unique. I think a lot of times people who consider themselves, an apprentice have one person that they're studying under. And the gift of this podcast has been there are many people I am studying under. And it's also sort of one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to put my work out there. I have an Instagram dedicated to my pieces that I will eventually post on, but I've been hesitant to post my pieces. Everyone is always asking to see my work. And I feel like I am still identifying what my style is. I have the great opportunity to learn from so many different people right now, but that's their style. And I'm trying to find my own blend of that. I want to be really careful to not copy anybody, and I want to play enough to where when I do start putting out my first initial pieces, they feel like they're my own. They feel like they have my hand on them. And that's not saying I have to have, my exact definitive style figured out right now, right in this moment. But I certainly do still want to feel a connection to whatever piece I first introduce everyone to as mine, as my work. And I take it seriously. And one of the main things I've been asking myself recently was, why do I want to be a jeweler? And this is a probing question for me, because I think the answer has changed over time, and the answer to me right now is different than it was even just a month and a half ago. I think a lot of times it's common for people to get into jewelry for the glamour of it, which I won't deny is definitely a side of it. I think I did when I first got in as a sales associate. I was just it felt elevated, it felt luxurious. I loved that side of it. And so that's really where I first planted my initial seeds. And there's the notoriety part, if you become a really, really good jeweler, you can get your name out there. But that's also not that interesting to me, especially right now. I am driven by curiosity. That's what I've most identified in the last few months. I really am curious as to how far I can push myself, how much I can learn, what I'm capable of doing, because I don't know. And I'm still so moldable in this time in my life and in this period. And, I don't have kids. I don't have like a ton of responsibilities other than, making ends meet and learning. Those are my two big things. And obviously, being a daughter and a wife and a friend and all of that, all of those beautiful things that keep me a well-rounded human being. But really my priority this year is to learn. And I'm giving myself, the grace to have this whole year to learn, particularly in regards to bench skills. And, I've been in the industry as a sales associate for some time. And, when I when I was at my last job, uh, I had made the decision, okay, I'm gonna switch from running sales full time to the bench full time. And I remember walking from my showroom, or where I was at in the showroom, into the jewelers, into the shop. And I told the jewelers that were working there, "Hey, I'm pivoting." And they were like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, "I'm going to try to do what you do." And the look of horror on their faces, they were like, "You don't want to do that." Like, "No, no, don't do this. Don't be a jeweler." Um it's a really hard way of life for many, and they're really lucky they have a great setup and a great place to work. Um, but being a jeweler at large is like not the career that it used to be. I think, a while ago it was very revered, especially I think in the early, I would say 1800s. It was revered as like this eloquent craft that took someone who was highly skilled. And I don't necessarily think that skill is now translated into everyday jewelry work. I think the best jewelers are engineers in their own right, but a lot of jewelers don't get the opportunity to be presented with a challenge of what they could rise to the occasion to do. And now I think very often jewelers are really abused and beat up, and they're tired and they're overworked. And so then the question again poises itself as like, why do I want to be a jeweler? The world certainly doesn't need more jewelry. I have this conversation with Michael Robinson. There's plenty of jewelry in the world. Um, why do we even try? Um, and I like what he said in his little shop tour that I did. His answer to why was because I have to, and that made me think quite a bit. And I think my answer to that would be a little bit different. I think my answer of why ultimately boils down to the answer of connection. I want to be more connected, and that isn't really tolerated in a very consumeristic society. I think, I want to be connected beyond just like in a sales capacity. I think that's where I really started to identify that I needed more. While I enjoyed the sales side of it, I wanted to be more involved. I wanted to actually be the one making the piece ultimately. And I wanted to feel connected to the material. I wanted to feel connected to the client. I wanted to feel connected to other craftsmen. And I wanted to have a way to relate to them. And I also wanted to be able to present a point of connection between other two people that I wasn't involved in. So, for example, a grandmother gifting an heirloom to a granddaughter. That's how I was introduced to jewelry. Was my grandmother left me an heirloom. And that to me is far more interesting than just adding more stuff to the world. I think we are so desperate for connection and intimacy, and we need it. We ultimately do need it. And so my place in the world is to just poise that question for right now. Why are you a jeweler? Why do you do this? Because you know we can do lots of things with our lives. Yet here we are. Most of you who are listening in are active members in the trade. What are you adding? And I don't mean that to be like I don't mean that to be offensive. I want people to think deeper about the choices that they are making. And for a lot of people it's a service. It's an act of service, and I think we are naturally service-oriented beings. Um and so being able to just help someone, whether that be help them restore, replace, or recreate something that meant something to them or means something to them, is also a gift. And that's also a good answer. I don't know. I think I am in a very I think I'm in a very contemplative state. And I also may just be a little sleep deprived. But all that to say, thank you for listening in. I'm going to keep posing these questions as I think of them. I don't really have a delicate or graceful way to end this episode, but thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I'm interested and open to dialogue and having more artists and creatives chime in. And I'll see you very soon. We've got another episode coming out this week. So, cheers.